Hello, my name is Linus Antonio Ofori Ejekum. In this lesson, we would be looking at blended learning models. It is important to understand that blended learning is basically the combination of online resources or online learning and in-person instruction or learning with regards to the normal brick and mortar mode of learning. And is the combination of active, engaged learning online with active, engaged learning offline to provide learners with more control over their time, place, pace, and path of their learning experience. Having said that, by the time we finish this lesson, it is expected that you will be able to achieve some outcomes. So at the end of the lesson, you will be able to understand the various models of learning. You will also be able to understand the different models of blended learning. And you will also be able to identify and implement the different models of blended learning. Before we move on to look at the blended learning models, we will first of all look at blended learning in relations to other education practices. In this diagram, you would find the brick and mortar section, which is the traditional instruction and instruction using technology, both of which are combined to create a blended student learning experience. In traditional instruction, learning activities are centered on the teacher or the lecturer. Learning takes place using textbooks, lectures, and individual written assignments. Students are adjusted to their age and abilities. The technology-rich teaching, however, or instruction, however, is learning that occurs with traditional teaching but uses digital enhancements such as electronic whiteboards, extensive access to the internet devices, cameras, digital textbooks, the internet itself, and online lesson plans. We also have the online learning section, which consists of offline learning, which is where students can use technology to study outside of the classroom at any time of their choosing. For example, students use online videos to view course materials. Full-time online learning is one which is structured, where content and instruction are delivered via the internet. The student or the learner does not need to come to school. They can be remotely monitored and guided. However, in some cases, students are made to come to school to write exams. And in most cases, students are made to write the exams virtually or online. Now, like I said earlier on, a combination of the brick and mortar and online learning experience gives a student the blending or the blended learning experience. Blended learning, however, has several models of implementation. And for the purposes of this lesson, we would look at the rotation model, which consists of the station rotational model, the lab rotational model, the flipped classroom model, the individual rotation model. Then the next model would be the flex model, the self-blend model, and the enriched virtual model. Now let's move on to understand what these various models of blended learning are and how they are implemented. So let's start by looking at the rotation model. The rotation model is where learning process can adjust to the schedule set by the lecturer. The learning process takes place through extensive group teaching, small group teaching, peer activities, group projects, individual tasks or activities which can be done using the computer. In this model, there are several implementations. That is the station rotation model, the lab rotational model, the flipped classroom model, and the individual rotation model. Now, with the station rotation model, students learn through a series of learning activities in class during specific periods. There is a rotation for online instruction activities. There are activities such as small group instructions as a whole, group projects, individual guidance, and assignments. Collaborative learning activities are carried out through small groups at each station. Then we move on to the lab rotational model. The lab rotational model, however, students or learners learn according to a predetermined schedule by working individual instructions, and this is done dominantly online in the laboratory, either throughout the class or in small groups. When we move on to the flipped classroom, here students learn inside and outside the classroom with instructions and projects. Students individually assess the content of teaching materials, which in most cases are sent online with asynchronous strategies outside the classroom. The content of teaching material is assessed by students before a face-to-face class meeting so that the learning in the class evaluates what individual students have been able to learn and also evaluates their understanding after the learning online. The role of the lecturer in this case, or the role of the teacher in this case, is to control the students at any time when studying online in various places outside the classroom. This model contains modalities of collaborative and project-based learning. Then we have the last one, which is the individual rotation model. Here, students learn based on individual perceptions, which are predetermined by the lecturer with the help of technology-based assessment equipment. In this case, you may have students who need some special mode of instruction. So in this case, that individual rotation model applies. The flex or flexible model is a learning strategy in which the facilitator stays in place. Information and instructions are supplied to students online via an LMS, and learners follow a steady schedule on their own. With this style, Learning can be flexible with support and guidance from the facilitator. Those small group instruction activities, group projects, and one-on-one mentorship exist, other facilitators provide flexible and adaptive online help as and when necessary. Hence, there are two general kinds of implementation when it comes to the flex or flexible model. And these forms are the learner-directed model, where the learner hands the rein and customizes their curriculum, including projects. And then we also have the remedial or special education model, which aims to help learners who need to make up for topics or courses they did not complete. Here, help is given to learners who need individual education programs to accomplish their learning goals in ways not accessible in the traditional classroom. The self-blend model is a scenario where learners choose to take one or more lessons, and all instructions are carried out online to complement their traditional courses. Facilitators in this case act as online instructors who are not on campus. This model is appealing to students who especially would want to learn outside the conventional classes. Most part, like I said earlier on, is done online. However, to implement the self-blend model, there is a need to have access and knowledge of recording videos, screencasts, video editing, etc. There might also be a need to also create labs which are virtual that can be used to run simulations. For instances where you would have to simulate some processes, and also for recording videos and showing a specific process in the video. The self-blend model is one that is entirely personalized. Learners in some cases still attend in-person classes, even if most of the learning is done online. Due to the freedom it offers, self-blend learning is a favorite among both learners and facilitators. As a result, individuals have the option to enroll in programs outside of the physical classroom setting and decide to enhance their education with online activities. In implementing this again, there will be the need for a robust LMS that can combine diverse content sources under one system to encourage curiosity and growth, and also direction for learning. We also look at the Enriched Virtual Model. Here, students follow a schedule provided by facilitators that contain virtual learning as well as face-to-face learning. Students are required to have an in-person learning session with their facilitator and then complete their remaining courseworks remotely with the same facilitator assessing their coursework. Unlike a virtual-only learning system where there is no on-campus learning, with this model, learners must participate in on-campus learning when asked to. However, for the most part, they can obtain all the learning material and engage in exercises virtually. Now, in summary, we have looked at the rotation model, the flex model, the self-blend model, and the enriched virtual model. These are just but a few but commonly used blended learning models. These are the most widely used or implemented blended learning models. You could blend two of these models to achieve your outcomes based on how your students learn. But one thing you need to understand in choosing or in implementing these models is that you would really have to understand how students learn or how people learn. And when you understand how people learn, then you can decide which of these blended learning models can be implemented successfully with your class. So basically, the blended learning models that are widely used are the rotation model, the flex model, the self-blend model, and the enriched virtual model. As we end this lesson, I would want you to take these activities, and because they are electronic activities, we call them activities. So use the online forum to inform your colleagues or your colleague learners about the model or models that will work best for your class based on how your students learn. You are limited to 200 words or less. Then once you have done this, the second thing or the second activity would be to read through other people's comments or people's posts and then comment on them. If there are pickups or takeaways you can take from there, you can share them with us during our active session. So in today's lesson, we have looked at the models of blended learning.